You're listening to Country Music Junkies, hosted by Patrice Whiffen. This week on Country Music Junkies, I am pumped to be chatting with my new friend, artist Hayden Joseph. Hayden, how are you doing?
I am well. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, we're pumped to be chatting with you. You got a lot going on, and I know we have a lot of ground to cover. We haven't chatted with you before, so I do want to kind of start with sort of where your country music journey began and what kind of drew you into this genre of music and kind of what's your path been so far.
Absolutely. So I grew up in South Carolina, which country music obviously big everywhere, but in the Southeast United States, country music is the biggest, probably anywhere in the Southeast United States.
Yeah, for sure.
So very much grew up. I was born in the mid '90s, so I grew up on what I consider to be country music greats of that time period. I think that was a really interesting time in country music because there's a lot of parity with men and women on the chart, so you had influences coming from both ends of that spectrum. It was kind of the start of traditional versus crossover country music, so you had a lot of variety of sound and a lot of variety of lyrics, and a really inspiring time, I think, to kind of fall in love with country music and be exposed to it.
Right.
So that's what drew me into it originally. I mean, so the first artist I remember hearing is Shania Twain. Had Her Woman and Me VHS tape that I played cover to cover daily for the first, probably 10 years of my life. So that's what drew me into country music originally. I didn't start pursuing it super aggressively, though, until I was older than most artists, honestly. I sang my whole life and wrote my whole life, but always had a really level head. I actually went to college in Nashville for something completely unrelated to music at Vanderbilt.
Oh, no way.
Worked in New York City. Yeah. Has nothing to do with what I do today, obviously. But so graduated from Vandy. I went to New York for a couple years after college, and I worked as a strategy consultant. And then that was kind of the first time in my life I realized, I've never had a period in my life where I couldn't at least have a creative outlet. I was always in performing arts groups and writing in my spare time, before I was a real person with a full-time corporate job and didn't have time for that anymore.
Right.
So I kind of hit an impasse. I was like, all right, I can't work 85-hour weeks if I don't have any sort of musical outlet. And so I started working in strategy at Warner Music Group in New York City. So I was on their strategy and digital strategy team. I did all of their negotiations for Spotify and Apple and kind of all of their streaming strategy. And that was when I kind of realized how accessible music had become to independent artists. I didn't realize that you could do so much online. You could upload music to these platforms, and that was kind of my moment of like, why am I not doing this? There's absolutely no excuse if it's this easy. Easy in air quotes, obviously.
Of course.
Easy.
More accessible for sure.
Yes. And so that was when I started working there that I was like, I'm going to actually take the songs I've been writing for the last decade plus and try to see them forward and do this as a side passion project, just to say that I did it and be proud of that piece of it. And that was step one. And step one, with every step, gradually became more and more and more and more in depth until, now I've been in Nashville for like a year and a half doing this very, very, very aggressively. I've been putting out music for probably three and a half years or so on the internet, but really been in Nashville proper for a little bit over a year. Like, as you know, in country music, it doesn't matter how many followers you have or how much music you put out. If you don't live in Nashville, at least for a period of time, people won't take you seriously. And so I kind of feel like I have two pieces of my musical journey, pre-Nashville and post-Nashville.
Quite a cool story. Definitely, I would say fairly unusual, but in like a cool way. And we're pleased that you're releasing music. You released your debut album, Different, this past winter, and it has received over 300,000 streams since, which is incredible. I know you have lots of TikTok followers and lots of engagement on social media. I want to kind of first talk about the debut album, Different, and what is kind of your sound, your style for people who haven't heard your music before?
Yeah, so I would say my style is I try to be really confessional with my writing, and so as a songwriter, I think I'm most inspired by Taylor Swift, obviously, to this day, but Fearless era Taylor, when it was very honest, confessional writing, the sound was very, very mid-lane country pop. That's what I aspire to be. Nothing that's off-putting to pop music fans. Things that country music fans can still say, I hear the country music in this, I hear the inspiration in this.
Right.
Because all of my idols have kind of made music like that. It sits in the middle very naturally. They're not trying too hard to be one thing or the other, and that's kind of what I want to be. I'm not a big believer in set boundaries if it has to sound like this or it has to be like this. I just want the music to be good and honest.
Absolutely.
That's where I sit in terms of sound. I think that album in particular It kind of spans a decade of my life. So some of the songs on that album I wrote when I was a teenager, and some of them I wrote in my mid-20s. And your perspective can change a lot in that time period. You obviously mature and grow up, so you kind of your multiple levels of maturity in those lyrics and kind of hear it. I ordered the tracks very specifically to kind of take you through the first 10 years of my life.
Wow.
And you know, they're very intentionally ordered, where you can kind of hopefully hear the evolution as they go forward. That's my hope there. I think with country music, particularly modern country music, there aren't a lot of men on the radio that are willing to be vulnerable and emotional and candidly honest. I think a lot of the lyrics in country music on the male side have gotten kind of homogenous and,
yes,
you know, repetitive and limited. And I think my goal is to stop that trend for multiple reasons. But I feel like, it's just not a realistic standard to hold people to, that men can't have emotions, because obviously we all do.
Of course.
And we want to see that trend in the industry kind of start breaking down. And also just get more diversity in country music, from not necessarily just diversity of people, but diversity of sounds and lyrics and styles, et cetera. So I think the genre has trended to be more and more homogenous over the last 10 years.
Of course, absolutely. Well, I think one thing that I noticed in listening to your music is that, yeah, it definitely comes from a place of authenticity. Like, I don't know you super well as a person, but as far as listening to your music, I kind of feel like I know you, and the stories that you're telling, although they're genuine to you, I feel like they're also very relatable to fans as well. So I think that's something that is really cool about your music, and I look forward to hearing more from you. Again, fans, we were chatting with Hayden Joseph. Now, Hayden, you just released a really cool tune to kick off Pride Month. I know you're an openly gay artist in the country music space, and your tune Out just got dropped on June 1st. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about Out. It's one of my favorite tunes I've ever written. It's one of those songs where you have some songs that are really difficult to write, and you work on them for a few days or sometimes even a couple weeks, just because you don't really know what you want to say and you're having a hard time crafting the story. With that song, it's one of those songs, the rare occurrence that comes to you in 20 minutes. I got the idea, and once I knew what I wanted the metaphor to be, it kind of wrote itself.
Wow.
Obviously, a journey to self-acceptance is a personal thing, and it's slightly different for everybody, but I think for most of the people that have gone through it, regardless of the reason you're going through that journey of self-acceptance, coming out on the other side is a really rewarding experience. And so that's the vibe I wanted the song to give off. You know, I didn't want it to be somber or, you know, kind of a sad message of like not overcoming hardships. I wanted to very much just be about the celebration and about accepting who you are and being proud of it.
Of course.
And that's kind of the birth of it. You know, I recognize as an openly gay artist that there are struggles that are unique to me that much of the country music fan base cannot relate to. However, there are a lot of things within those struggles that are universally relatable. So when I write about that topic, I try to keep that in mind so it's still authentic to me, but I also want the meaning to be open to interpretation from listeners who are different, who've had different experiences. So obviously that song is about coming out and it's about celebrating that, but if you haven't gone through that experience, I do think you can find meaning in that song that goes way beyond that narrow topic.
I would agree with you 100%. It's definitely a very relatable tune, and I feel like everyone kind of struggles with their internal battle of accepting who they are, whether that be gay, straight, black, white, anything. And so I think that that tune is definitely very relatable to the fan base. And I'm curious, I know you have a massive following on social media. What has been the response? You know, we're kind of 1 week into June since that tune was released. What's been the response so far?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I've tried to read every message that I get. I can't respond to all of them, but I've been reading what people have been sending me about the song. A couple people have told me that the song inspired them to come out to their family, which I think is great. I got my first Spotify editorial placement on one of their big Pride playlists with that song, which is that probably doesn't mean much to people that aren't putting out their own music, but getting on the Spotify editorial placement playlist is a pretty opaque process. No one really knows what you have to do, and everyone's kind of fighting for it. So it's a small win, or I guess a big win.
A big win, I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So things like that it's exciting to see these little things on your vision board, these little things that you have written down of, I need to get this is the next step for me, like I need to get on a playlist. To see those things happening is very rewarding. And it makes you feel like you're doing something right.
Oh, exactly. Well, I would say keep doing what you're doing, because it's definitely making waves within the country music space for sure. Now, Hayden, if fans want to connect with you and learn more about you, where's the best place for them to go?
So you can follow me on TikTok at Hayden Joseph Music or Instagram at Hayden Joseph. A lot of people ask me on TikTok, where am I playing? I will say Instagram is a better platform to kind of keep track of my shows because, you know, the story feature is easier to kind of post things to a message board than TikTok is. But
of course.
if you want to just hear my sassy country music commentary or see covers or originals before they're released, TikTok is the place to go for that.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate your time today. Really pumped to have chatted with you. Looking forward to staying in touch and hopefully seeing a live show very soon as the world starts opening back up.
Yes, I very much look forward to that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hayden.